of Nehru Memorial Library. We have the pleasure of having with us today one of our junior fellows, Dr. Lipika Roy, who is going to speak on the subject of effects of forced migration from Bangladesh to Barak Valley, a study of Hindu women. I believe she is going to talk there about the migration that has happened in the last three quarters of a century or so, and probably she will also provide a historical perspective on this migration, uh, whose causes and effects are many. I believe she is going to discuss them. One thing I would like to say at the very beginning that all students of history are well familiar with the fact that migration is an integral part of human history. It has happened across continents, of course, then it has happened across empires, across kingdoms, across regions, etc. etc. But in the modern times, it has taken a different uh, color altogether, partly because of the consolidation of national boundaries, which naturally are sacrosanct and have to be defended. And when large scale migration happens from one country to another, generally it becomes a problem for the host country. And that is the situation that India too has faced, not only as a whole, but especially in some parts of the country, the problem has become serious enough to require academic attention. Uh, with these few words, I would now like to invite Lipika to proceed with her lecture.
Thank you so much, sir, for introducing me. I'm thankful to Nehru Memorial Museum and Library for giving me this opportunity and platform also so that I can interact with you all. The topic which I'm going to discuss today, that is effects of forced migration from Bangladesh to Barak Valley of Assam, a study of Hindu women, is a part of my current work that I'm doing here in Nehru Memorial. It's a part of my research work. So today's talk, in the very beginning, I would like to say that I'll divide the presentation into three parts. In the very beginning, in the first part, I'm gonna talk and I'll introduce the valley, that is the Barak Valley, the region. And in the first part, I will also discuss on the historical background behind Bengal partition. In the second part, and the relation also, in the first part, I'll discuss on the relation also with Barak Valley and East Pakistan and East Bengal and presently Bangladesh. In the second part, I'll be focusing on to the factors behind the forced migration, the factors which I came to know through my empirical study that I have done recently in Bangladesh and Barak Valley. And in the second part, I will also discuss on the challenges like socio-economic and political challenges that Hindu women of Barak Valley are facing. In the last part, I'll show you the slides. Through the slides, I show you where the places I have been to in Bangladesh and in Barak Valley. With that note, I'll start today's talk. So Barak Valley is the southernmost region of Assam, having 8 towns in 4 subdivisions and 3 districts, that is Kachar, Hailakandi and Karimganj. Having 43 lakhs of population, Barak Valley, the economy of the valley had been a periphery to the economic mainstream of Bengal during the British rule. Due to the and partition not only broke the traditional cheapest and quickest lines of transport and communication, but also had snapped the age-old channels of trade, commerce, and transactions. The post-independence phase did not adequately compensate the valley for all the loss inflicted on it by the partition. Consequent upon the partition of the district of Sylhet, a small portion of Sylhet was retained in India and named Karimganj and attached to the Kachar district as a subdivision, which was later made a district. The subdivision of North Kachar Hills was later detached from Kachar and made a district. Hence, Barak Valley now comprises the three districts, that is Karimganj, Hailakandi, and Kachar. Sujit Kumar Ghosh, in his book Who Made Us Leave Our Home, Politics of Subversion, The Untold Story of Sylhet, mentioned that the Barak Valley after the partition begins to localize itself in the minds of the Sylhetis as it was attached with Sylhet only. So Sylhet is as being a separate sphere within Assam. It is part of Assam and yet it is not. The Sylheti experience problematizes the term refugee because of the mechanical boundaries that partition drew through a region. It is because of the complex nature of partition which led to the birth of East Pakistan that divided not only states but the Sylhet division as well, leaving the district of Karimganj split between the Indian and East Pakistan sides of the border. Thus, people who belong to the Karimganj district of Sylhet long before partition occupy position with regards to the term refugee, since there is no physical movement of the individual. Nevertheless, the border of nationality is drawn at the cost of losing one's cultural and geographical belongingness to a particular region, especially when the identification of being Sylheti is still strong among the people on the Indian side of the border, even though they no longer belong to the present-day Sylhet. So, historical background behind the Bengal partition. As we all know, and mostly here the people are from history, as we all know, the Bengal province was the biggest province. And due to that reason, we also have to look upon the situation of East Bengalis, because when we see the Bengal partition, we see that the West Bengal and the East Bengal. In the West Bengal, mostly Bengali people were Hindus, and the East Bengal, the mostly people were the Muslim Bengalis. So after the partition and Lord Curzon's divide and rule policy, which is known to everyone, due to that divide and rule policy and due to that policy which was based on religion, the mostly the East Bengali Hindus had to suffer the most. And this was also a very important matter of discussion, that because of that reason, because of that divide and rule, the West Bengal of Bengalis of West Bengal, maybe they have not faced the circumstances and the brutality that the East Bengal Bengalis had to suffer, especially the Hindu Bengalis. And because of that reason, in 1905, in 1947, in 1971, in every time, it was only the Hindu Bengalis of East Pakistan, East Bengal, and then Bangladesh. They always had to suffer, and they had to flee their place, their land, because of this policy that made by the Britishers. So East Bengal and its relation with Assam, when we see the relation between East Bengal and Assam, Pallav Dev and Samiksha Bhan, they have written in their book that the relationship between Assam and Bengal, East Bengal, was not that smooth. You know, partition and the subsequent policies of the Eastern Bengal and Assam administration induct far-reaching changes in the political life of Eastern Bengal that lasted long after the demise of the short-lived province. So due to the political miscalculation involved in the partition and financial realities, the new provincial government had little hope of achieving the desired increase in administrative efficiency or of bringing government closer to the people of the neglected Eastern Bengal districts. The partition and the policies of the Eastern Bengal and Assam administration also contributed to the formation of a separate Muslim political movement and to the heightening of communalism, and set in motion a chain of events which ultimately led to the movement of Pakistan. As in other instances, during the same period, the British Indian bureaucracy had undertaken a fateful policy based on a misunderstanding of reality and a false conception of the consequences of its act. So after the Bengal partition, we cannot skip the major war that has been done in Liberation War of 1971 in Bangladesh. So the war of language moved towards the Islamic identity. You know, uh, after attaining liberation from Pakistan, Bangladesh, based on language, started to move towards Islamic identity with the nation, which formed in 1988. Because of this, the Hindu minority has had to suffer the most. They have to fight for their identity or survival. They have to face discrimination in social, political, economic, and cultural relations. A large section of Hindu had no other option left than to flee from Bangladesh to their India to save their life along with their family. And from a gender perspective, we also see that rape and atrocities against women became one of the vital reasons for them to opt for migration to India. Liberation struggle in Bangladesh in 1971 was distinctly different from other upheavals. So these are the points we can see from War of 1971, that how the movement of language, the movement of language, where all the people from every caste, class, community, they participated in the Mukti Juddha despite of having their different religion. They fought for language initially, but then what happened the after the war? We all celebrate the war as Indian side of people, that we helped Bangladesh and we achieved winning the war. But what has happened to the East Bengalis and the East Pakistani Hindus was the main disaster. And if you can remember, in those time of Mukti Juddha and during the time of war, mostly people, especially women, got raped. They became homeless. The atrocities was so high that they had no option. They had to leave that place. So Shujit Chaudhuri, in his book Folklore and History of Barak Valley, described that in 1874, when the district of Sylhet and Kachar were tagged to with Assam, when relation of Assam and East Bengal, we see that the Governor General promised to protect the linguistic and cultural identity of the Suma Valley. The Indian National Congress also recognized that and set up their jurisdiction of the Bengali Provincial Congress till 1947 there. Today, when we see the 80% Bengali speakers in Barak Valley, we have to connect the past and the historical process, which helps to keep in our mind the socio-cultural legacy of the Barak Valley. The Bengali Hindus of the Barak Valley, like the Hindus of the other parts of the country, follows the Brahminical Hinduism. At the same time, in his book, he also mentioned the valley has its own indigenous and non-scriptural features too. First, the Austic-speaking Khasis and also some tribe-speaking languages of the Tibeto-Burma origin had been and neighbors of the local population in Barak Valley. Religiously, in Barak Valley, Hinduism also, he said that Hinduism faced from other faiths like Buddhism. Again, in the early 14th century, when Sylhet and Barak Valley was together, and Sylhet was conquered by Shah Jalal and converted a large section of Hindus into Islam. Due to its geographical politics, the people of Barak Valley had faced crisis with their authenticity and identity. So this was the relation between East Bengal and Barak Valley district of Assam and the entire zone. So next part, as I told you before, that I'll focus on the factors behind forced migration and declined population of Hindus from Bangladesh. So after going over field, I have visited recently in Bangladesh and in Barak Valley. Through my empirical study, I got to know many things from directly from the people. They have confessed me many new factors which I'm going to discuss here. So I have decided to discuss on 10 factors which I feel the reasons behind the forced migration. Because when we say, as already sir has told, that migration is a continuous process and it's going everywhere. But then why I have specifically mentioned that forced migration? These are the reasons for what I have mentioned that. So the first thing is replacement of secularism from the preamble of the Constitution of Bangladesh. From the inception of Bangladesh in 1971, secularism was one of the important feature of Constitution of Bangladesh to provide protection to minority section of the society, that is religious minority. But in 1977, under the leadership of Zia Rahman, the principle of secularism under the Constitution get replaced with inclined towards Islamism. So the predominance of the majority religious started, and accordingly minority religious group like Hindus get affected due to injustice and equality. Number of incidents take place against the religious group, like demolition of temples, looting of properties, raping and killing Hindu women, etc. Such kind of violence never takes place before against the Hindu minorities in Bangladesh, which has been reported in number of newspapers and journals also. So rape and atrocities against women already I have discussed that how Hindu women are become the victim of forced migration, and why they had to leave their own place. So the another important factor is that because of the ongoing violence against women, the women of Bangladesh, they don't feel safe at all. In fact, when I went to Sylhet district of Bangladesh, many young women, many young students, they told me that, will you take us to India? We don't want to stay here. We want to study, but then we don't feel comfortable to be here. We want to study. We want to go out. If a girl, she's a pretty looking girl, and as we all know that the Bangladeshi women, they wear burqa, so Hindus, they don't wear burqa there. So in such situation also, families and parents, they don't feel safe to if for example a girl, she was an MBA, she has an MBA degree, but then when I told, you have an MBA degree, why are you not joining any job? Then she said, I am from Sylhet, if I have to work, I have to go to Dhaka, but then my parents, they don't feel safe to send me there. So this is the situation. Sometimes a girl, she told me that nearby she had an experience where a woman, the Islamic groups, they take them, and day after 1 or 2 days, they take them back to their houses, and the family, they can't even go to the police. They don't feel safe even to come out and to protest against this. So this is the second reason why forced migration is happening. The third point which I have mentioned is acquisition of land. So another point I came to know is enemy property act, that is Wasted Property Act in Bangladesh. So what happens is that if a Hindu family, if they don't feel safe in Bangladesh, and if they want to come to India, so if the siblings are still there in Bangladesh, they cannot take the property. The property will go to the Wasted Act. According to the Enemy Act, the property will go to the government. And if a sibling, he comes to India and his brother or his sister is still living there in Bangladesh, especially the Hindu, they will not get the land. So if they don't have the land due to this Wasted Property Act, then they cannot stay over there. Abul Barkat, who is a professor in Dhaka University, he said that he wrote in his book Deprivation of Hindu Minority in Bangladesh that during last 40 years, the relatively shared Hindu population is decreasing. In 1961 it was 17%. In 1981 it was 12%. In 1991 it was 11%, and in 2001 it is more. It is less than 10%. So if we now see the census, the upcoming census of Bangladesh, I'm sure the numbers will fall down under 7%, I guess. So this is another reason, due to acquisition of land, they cannot stay over there, the Hindus especially. Non-cooperation from the majority religious group of Bangladesh continuing to non-cooperate with the minority Hindu religious, and it is something which I came to know from the mouth of the victims only. Another important factor is push and pull factor behind the forced migration. So the push factor is from the Bangladesh side, due to this kind of problem, the land and the rape and atrocities, and so these factors, they forced the Hindus or the other minority groups like Buddhists and other Christians, they forced them to leave Bangladesh. And the pull factor is from Indian side, we are now giving CA, NRC, it's coming. So for this reason, and in before also, we had a feeling that if a Hindu cannot stay anywhere in the world, they can come over here. So this pull factor and push factor is also behind the reason of forced migration of Hindus from Bangladesh to India. Another problem is no freedom of religious practice. One of the family, they told that just because last year only in 2021 we have incident where a person, a mentally disbalanced person, he kept Quran Sharif in a Durga Mandir, and due to that reason we get to know that in 2021 Durga Puja, during Durga Puja, there were so many ethnic communal clashes happened in Bangladesh. Many like temples and many idols got broken and destroyed by the Islamic groups of Bangladesh. So they are not in a position to practice their religious rights also. So this is another factor. Two more another factors is cultural antagonism and poor governance. So it is known to everyone, due to the poor governance only, the Hindus of Bangladesh, they have to face some such problem, and they had to leave their place. Psychological factor. Say one of the lady in Shilchar, she recently came over here last. I won't mention her name. Few years back, she told me that where she was staying in Sylhet, just because a Muslim family came and came nearby their house. They brought a land nearby their house. Just for that reason, they felt so scared, and they sold out their that Hindu family sold out their home. So that psychological pressure and fear factor is also working behind it. For that reason, also we can see the forced migration. And the religious movement, it is another very important factor when we see the religious persecution. When we talk about the religious persecution, we often talk about the Kashmiri Hindus and many other community, those who faced religious persecution. But religious persecution is one of the major cause behind forced migration of Hindu people from Bangladesh to India. Not only now, since 1947 and 1971, this was the reason. Either you convert into Islam, or they will consider you as kafir. So for that reason also, they had to leave their place and they had to come over here. So this is another important factor behind forced migration of people. So now I'll be discussing on the challenges that women of Barak Valley, Hindu women of Barak Valley is facing. So there are challenges like social challenges, economic challenges, and political challenges. The points that I'm going to discuss, these are the points which I came to know from the people only. So social challenges of Barak Valley, language acceptance, religious hatred, and identity crisis. Language is a big factor for which Bengali Hindus are facing difficulties to cope up with the entire state. For this, we have to look upon the historical reasons behind it. Dr. Manju Singh, in her book, she wrote that in her book, Politics of Migration and Quest for Identity, stated directly that with the help of British, Hindu Bengalis took all the jobs. As a result, Assamese community revolt against Bengalis in Assam, and started the movement called against the Bengali language. It is also known as the Bhasha Andolon, and in Assam we call it, in Assamese dialect we call it the Bongal Kheda. The Bongal Kheda means drive out the outsiders. So this is another reason which the Hindu Bengalis of Barak Valley is facing. See, before 1971, when the and during from the very beginning of 19th century, the people, the Bengali people were staying in many parts of Assam, because and due to that reason, and Bengalis were educated and they were literate comparatively to other communities, so that for that reason they got the opportunity in job sectors too since the very beginning into the British rule. But due to this Ahom Andolon and due to this Assam agitation, the shift from this movement to come against the Bengali language is something that it's something, a social problem that the Bengalis of Barak Valley, especially the Hindus, are facing. You know, in fact, there during the time of Assam agitation, there were posters too, by giving a slang to Jyoti Basu and saying Bengali Hindus are Indian dog. I'm sorry for using this abusive word, but then this is the fact that they had to face, the Bengalis of Assam. Religion is a complex phenomena in Assam where there always a clash with the regional sentiment over nationalistic sentiment. Geographical political changes increase the insecurities more, with affected in every possible way. So there's a conflict between regional sentiment and the nationalistic sentiment also, due to the large number of immigrants, Muslims, for their economic need coming over Assam from decades. For that immigrants, or for that illegal immigrants, the Bengali Hindus, those who are the victims of forced migration, had to face the most. You know, you will be shocked to know that in 9 districts of Assam, and now we know that after Kashmir, we have a second population of Muslim in Assam, and the Muslims, they are not the Khilonjia Muslims. The Khilonjia, what we call the Khilonjia, means the Muslims, those who are from residing there in Assam since the time of Mughal period, those who speak as mixed language. No, this is not that population. The population is the illegal migrants, the Muslim migrants of Bangladesh. For that reason, you will shock to know that in Dhubri now the immigrants Muslims have increased so much. They are now 79% compared to Hindus. In Barpeta they are 71%. In Dorong they are 65%. In Goalpara they are 58%. In Korimganj they are 57%. In Nagaon they are 58%. In Morigao they are 53%. In Bongaigaon they are 51%. So we came to know that in Barak Valley, that is my subject area, two places. Can we just find it? Two district in 3 district of Barak Valley that I have chosen: the Korimganj, the Hailagandi, and Silchar. In Korimganj and in Hailagandi, the immigrants population, Muslim population is higher than the Hindus. So recently, in one of the interview of Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma, we have seen that he said that minorities become majority and majority become minority in Barak Valley. So the minority, the Hindu minority should get the minority rights also in these 2 districts. So this is the problem, that these are the social problem that facing by the Bengali. And when the Bengali speaking immigrants Muslim, when the Bengali speaking immigrants Muslim is higher than the Assamese community and the Bengali Hindu community, and they speak Bengali only, the language the Bengali Hindus are also speaking, there is an identity crisis also, because the identity of the Hindus is getting lost in the identity of immigrants Muslim. So the identity crisis factor is a very big social problem that the Hindus are facing. So political challenges, again, I have already discussed that how Assam Andolan took place and how this has happened. So another political problem is that the AGP, which was Assam Gana Parishad, which formed by ASU, they always had a neglected towards the Bengalis sentiment, because their main agenda was against the Bengali language. So when a movement turned into a student organization and turned into a political party, you can imagine when they were into power, they have not done any development for the Bengalis of Barak Valley. So this is a political reason. Second political point is that the vote bank politics. When we see the vote bank politics after AGP, it was the Congress government which took over Assam for like 2 decades, and during that time they have given all the ration card and everything to the immigrants Muslims to get the votes. And it is something that I came to know from my research only and through the empirical study only. So this is another problem. So just
Yeah,
give me
please conclude.
yeah. So this is another problem, that vote bank politics created problem to the Hindu Bengali and especially the women of Barak Valley. The lastly, the economic challenges. I would like to say that the economic challenges are, especially Assam has a largely rural agrarian economy, which is characterized by high rate of work participation of women. So female work participation are high, and it is subsistence farming. Women do not benefit economically, though they share a proportionate share of the work burden. The women of Barak Valley, although working hard in the agricultural sector under non-government sector also, but the wages are too low. So they have a double burden. They are working at home, they are going outside, and they have a double burden of this. And they cannot live their lifestyle also. Well, already the land power is slowly going to the Muslims. So the immigrants Muslims. So another issue which is the economical problem is that many people from Barak Valley, especially the women, they told that due to the borderline smuggling is happening, and due to that the Islamic states are sending money, flowing money to the Barak Valley, and for that reason the immigrants Muslim can buy land, but the poor Bengali Hindus, they cannot buy land, and this way also the people are losing their right.
All right.
Now give me just 2 minutes, sir. Being a woman, it is already a challenge to get equal work opportunities in the society. In case of Hindu migrated women of Barak Valley, trying hard to get better work opportunities despite being educated as compared with many other communities. Without the financial independency, it is next to impossible to uplift the standard of living of the women of Barak Valley. Refugee families, despite of being connected with the root of this nation, need to struggle in every step of their life. The East Bengalis or the East Pakistani Bengalis, Hindu Bengalis, always need to prove themselves as non-Bangladeshi. The term Bangladeshi used by the commoners of Assam as an abusive word that is extremely painful for the East Bengalis to listen to. So mostly in the workplace, the women of Barak Valley have to face such difficult situation where they need to prove their loyalty and nationalistic feeling towards the country to show the equal image. But sadly, after so many decades, the differences are not getting vanished by proper culture, nurture, and education. The challenges of economical differences in workplace for a Hindu woman or a girl is real. So now I'll just show the slides.
No, let it be. I think,
So this is the place.
all of us have got the point very well. Thank you. Yeah. What is this?
Sir, I'll show you the places where I've been to in Bangladesh.
Yeah, this is okay. This is okay. I think.
So these are the places. She's lost everyone in
No,
1971.
we trust you. Of course, you must have. Just
No.
move ahead.
Yeah, this is the place also I've been to. 3 places where they recently the Hifazat-e-Islam, a terrorist group, kind of, they have destroyed the places. This is, it's in Bangladesh. I met many people there. This is Hindu, Bodho, Christian Oikko Porishad. I met them, and I met Brahmin committee and Durga Puja committee of Dirai, which is in Sylhet. The other people. I met students of Shah Jalal University in Technology in Sylhet. And this is the border side. These two people from Bangladesh government, Awami League, they helped me there. And this is into Barak Valley, the minority college there where I went there. All the data which I have collected, I'll come up with the quantitative analysis in my next talk. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank, uh, it was a lecture delivered with great passion about the subject, and I'm sure that all of us have heard you with great interest and attention. And of course, now it is our turn for questions and answers. And let us keep both questions and answers as brief as possible. Huh. Dr. Panda, please go ahead.
Lipika, my compliments. In fact, this is not my domain area, so I cannot specifically comment on what you spoke. But as a researcher, I will make some two brief suggestions. Your main focus has been only on Bangladesh. Is it possible for you to widen a bit, if not in detail, at least marginally, in examining the role of Hindu women in Pakistan? Because at one point of time, we're all one country. So what kind of problems they are facing in Pakistan, we do not know. Going there, of course, for you will be impossible. But from whatever possible sources you can access, if you can give some kind of anecdotes or some comparative analysis that might be that will give a very South Asian perspective, I would suggest. This is just a suggestion, not a question. The second suggestion is, I will strongly recommend you to meet Dr. Ashish Nandi. He has done enormous amount of work on genocide, violence, related to your topic. I think if you have a session with him, you will highly benefit. That I can assure you. These are all two.
We will take several questions before you answer. Sir, go ahead. Please use the mic.
Particularly working on a theme in generally people shy away these days to work upon. So I congratulate you for picking up such a theme. Just two minor suggestions that you see, we have to now change that terminology also. A kind of colonial terminology and language which is used even for the most atrocious things happening in the world. So has this word migration, I was happy you used it, forced migration. No one wanted to migrate from there. The question is, it is not even forced migration. It's like forced throwing out the people. It's forced expulsions of the people from that area. For that. And secondly, well, we all do this now, that we try to look into these things, the economic factors, the social factors and all that. But what is happening in these regions, and particularly in many other regions also now, I saw the story 3 days back that laborers had gone and they were taken away and they were converted. Then the excuse given is that they wanted to be away from their wives, so they are converted and all. Prime reason, and the prime reason for this was, and even now is today, the jihadi psyche which exists. The whole thing of that kafir and the Ghazwa Hind thing which exists over there. And I don't agree with now this kind of analysis. One may bring in economic factors, one may bring in these factors, and all these things. Because the reason is they were not thrown out because of economics. The reason is very simple why they have been thrown out. And let us come out then and force that boldly. A time has come that we boldly, have to tell the world that what is the real reason for this, rather than shying away. And I'm not saying you are shying away. I'm talking about general broader theme. कि नहीं इसके पीछे इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर था, ये था, वो था. नहीं भाई, पहला फैक्टर इसके पीछे जिहादी मेंटेलिटी है.
Meenakshi ji, we want to ask some.
Lipika, yes, I just wanted to make one or two suggestions on this topic. You've done a very good job. As I was listening to your talk, I thought that in 1971, Pakistan, the whole of Pakistan, it got divided on the issue of language because what is now Bangladesh were not ready to accept Urdu as the language. So maybe, this thing has to be emphasized. I agree with Kapilji that, this economic factors and all is not. Now the problem is that according to what I've understood, now you're saying that the language is also moving towards Islamic language. And then we read that Sheikh Hasina is not so rabid. So I'm a little confused about what is the situation, and you're talking about forced migration. I appreciate that point about Hindu women, but what is the compulsion for Muslims to migrate? And you have to emphasize the role of religion. Religion seems to be the operative factor. Thank you.
We have one more question from there. After that, you can answer. Yes, please go
I
ahead.
think she has to focus as a researcher on the plain truth that political games generate forced migration, period.
All right, you can answer, Lipika.
Thank you so much, sir.
Gentlemen, are we allowed to ask questions from, from...
We will just come back to you. I want the speaker now because there are already 4 questions or comments. So
Okay,
let
perfect.
her answer
Perfect.
them, and then we will come back to the audience again.
Perfect.
Sir, I'll try to work on Hindus and the condition of Hindu women in Pakistan also. But before that, I think now I am presently focusing on the condition of Hindu women from Bangladesh itself. So yeah, I'll do that thing surely later on with time. And thank you for your suggestion. Kapil sir, forced migration, sir and madam, you have raised almost same thing. Forced migration, why I am only focusing on forced migration? We can talk about the migration voluntarily. We can talk about the migration which are for economical reasons, for which the illegal Muslims have came over Assam. But then my area and my work is specifically on Hindu women, and for that reason I have already discussed the 10 factors today, that what made them forcefully they have to pushed by the Bangladesh government and the people to came over here. So this is one of the biggest reason why Hindus are forced, and why I have used the forced and not I'm talking about the migration which is taking place every day illegally by the Muslims from there. So already I have discussed that what are the factors, for what reason I have emphasis this word forced here. So thank you, ma'am, for that. And
is that so? All right, we'll take a question from our online participants. I can see Mrinal Kanti Dev wants to ask a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would like to ask Dr. Roy that if she has compared the data of missing Hindus from Bangladesh, which was initially for the first time estimated by Professor Meghna Guha Thakurta, number one, and number two, when it comes to the wage discrimination in terms of gender, So I would like to raise a point that after the introduction of MG NREGs, across all the states and especially Assam, it may be Barak Valley or Brahmaputra Valley, the discrimination in terms of gender is already almost disappeared. So what kind of, so apart from this scenario, what kind of discrimination are they facing in terms of wage? And I'm seeing Professor Santosh Mehrotra is there. Professor Mehrotra can correct me if I'm wrong, because MGNRGS has already destroyed the wage discrimination in terms of. At
All right,
present,
thank
what
you.
kind of difference are they facing?
Yeah, we have another question from one of our online participants. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ray, for your beautiful presentation. So I just would like to add some more points which I haven't seen in your presentation. So you have been speaking about the forced migration and other activities which which has been happening. But I just would like you to focus on some concentrated issues which were never been presented across the globe. For example, Bhola riot, 2001 it has happened. Around 2000 women has been raped, and only 200 of them have been registered in terms of FIR or something like that. And and in that only one case of Purnima Shil has been glorified, but none other than Purnima Shil's case has been glorified. So likewise, because I have seen hundreds of I have spoken with hundreds of people whose relative, far away relative have been have gone through such atrocities. And but
Please be
and they have
I
no
have
other
got
way other than
a lot.
leaving Bangladesh, because they need to make their
Excuse me.
daughter or sister getting married. So that is one point. And one more point
Excuse
is, you
me.
have spoken about.
Just try to be brief, because many more participants want to ask questions.
Gentlemen, but the point is pretty big, so I'll try to be very brief.
No,
And
just
sorry
one
for
more point,
taking long
and
time.
then we'll move on to others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll add one more point into this. And so you have spoken about last Durga Puja, where person with who do not have, who has some mental illness, he has come and put some Quran Sharif in front of Durga temple, and 300 plus temples were attacked. And this has been happening since 1972, and no documentation so far of how much attack has happened on the Hindu community has been there. So I
All right.
request
I
Dr.
think we have
Ray.
got your point. Let's give a chance to others.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
we have a question here. Please go ahead. Rapnesh ji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lipika, for your tremendous presentation. So my simple question is, why you have chosen this topic? Because it's a very sensitive topic. So my simple question is, why you have chosen this topic?
Yes, go ahead. Riddhi?
Thank you for your talk, Lipika. One short question. Did the women speak about tensions that they experience in their identity as Bangladeshi on the one hand and as Hindus on the other, especially when they're in India? Thank you.
Should we take one more question, or you would like to answer first? No, we'll take that later. Go ahead, Soumya.
Thank you, Lipika.
Yes.
My question to you is to think rather broadly, because you pointed out how women have been subjected to identity politics, and in your presentation we found that this kind of horrible rape and other kinds of atrocities that women suffered, and there is a problem that they suffered as Bengali Hindus in Bangladesh, and they suffered the same kind of atrocities in Assam, because again being Bengali Hindus from Assamese also. So there is, if you could think rather than being descriptive, which is important, but if you could broaden this out into thinking about what identity politics does to regions, to women, it would be, I would find it much more fruitful for your future research. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead and answer. Then we'll take more questions.
Thank you so much. Mrinal Kanti Dev, I want to say that my specialization and my focus is on gender perspective. For that reason only, I'm trying to make another comparative study between the Hindus of Bangladesh, the minority Hindus of Bangladesh, with the minority Muslims of Barak Valley. And that thing, with my quantitative analysis, I will come up in the next talk. For now, my focus is on into gender. So other perspective, I have already mentioned the other reasons for what make them to leave their place, and with a gendered eye. So in that case, and the second question about the Bhola right, I know about the Bhola right because as today's talk, I wanted to inform the people about the valley and about the historical linkage, because without knowing the past, without giving importance to the past, we cannot directly come to the conclusion, and we cannot directly come to today's present day problems that women are facing. So for that reason, and we have a lack of time also. For that reason also, I cannot cover all the things. So I'll surely keep in mind, and that will be included in my work. And identity, the same thing that you and ma'am have asked. Yes, identity crisis is something which every community of Northeast is facing, whether it is tribal, whether it is Assamese, whether it is Bengalis. So everyone is facing in their own way. And in that case, being a woman, they are already facing the identity crisis, because as I already mentioned, that Bangladeshi, the word Bangladeshi itself sounds as an abusive word. When being a woman from East Pakistan or East Bengal, you have to hear the word Bangladeshi. Then from there only you feel the crisis of your own authenticity and identity. You try to prove yourself as either as Assamese or as Indian. The whole process is there. So I feel that, and thank you so much, sir, for the question. Why I have chosen this sensitive topic, because I feel that this is an area where we should work on, the especially the young people. Many of us, we might don't know what has happened in history and the consequences and the challenges that women of Barak Valley and the women of Bangladesh are facing every day. And yes, my mother, she's also from East Bengal, and 2 years back when I took her to Bangladesh to Sylhet after 49 years, my own maternal uncle, he was standing in the border area, and he asked my mother, "Are you Bashuna Roy?" So a sibling asking his own sister that, "Are you Bashuna Roy?" That moment only it struck me, and I felt that this is something that we all should know about, and this is something, after meeting 49 years, a brother and a sister, they don't know each other. So this is something people should know. For that reason, despite of having its sensitivity, I have taken this work.
We have another question. Sanjay, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Lipika, for this very interesting talk. I just want to know this. You have just talked about the poor governance. So I just want to know this: what kind of law and what kind of governing system is there against the atrocity and rape, and how government is reacting on such kind of activities? Bangladesh government also.
Okay.
Shukla ji, you want to ask? Go ahead.
पहले तो लिपिका को बहुत बहुत बधाई एक कंप्लीट प्रेजेंटेशन के लिए, और शुरू से आखिरी तक ऐसा लग रहा था कि आपने अंदर महसूस किया है विषय को, तो बहुत अच्छी बात है ये। दूसरा एक तो जो पांडा सर ने सजेशन दिया कि पाकिस्तान की जो महिलाएं हैं उनके बारे में, तो जब हम लोग कुछ माइक्रो स्टडी टाइप का कुछ करते हैं, तो एक तो ये है कि ये छूटा हुआ विषय है जिस पर आप कर रही हैं। तो अगर आप अपने खांचे में, जानने के लिए आप करें, लेकिन अपने खांचे में जो स्टडी कर रही हैं, अगर वो लगता है कि वो बहकने लगे, तो आप अपने दायरे में रहिएगा, उससे आप ज़्यादा फोकस्ड काम कर पाएंगे। बहुत फैलने से वो गड़बड़ हो सकता है, मेरा अपना सजेशन है। दूसरा एक खास चीज़ है जो मुझे स्ट्राइक कर रही है फोर्स माइग्रेशन में, कि आपने बहुत अच्छे ढंग से दिखाया कि फोर्स माइग्रेशन हो रहा है। ये जो फोर्स माइग्रेशन है जो ईस्ट बंगाल से हो रहा है, जो रोहिंग्यास का हो रहा है, उन दोनों में क्या डिफरेंस है फोर्स्ड माइग्रेशन में? क्योंकि हम एज अ इंडियन जो भी माइग्रेशन हो रहा है उसको माइग्रेशन के तौर पे ले रहे हैं, तो ऐसे में हम कैसे डिफरेंस करें रोहिंग्यास के माइग्रेशन को और जो बांग्लादेश से माइग्रेशन मुस्लिम्स का हो रहा है और ईस्ट बांग्लादेश से जो हिंदूज का हो रहा है, इसमें हम कैसे डिफरेंस करें और इसको किस तरह से लें? बस इतना।
We will take one more question from our online participants. Devunina Datta, please go ahead.
I want to say one thing very quickly. Can I say it first?
Devunina Datta,
Hi. Am I audible?
yes.
Yeah, Devunina Datta. I'm a researcher from Assam University, Silchar, the place from where Lipika Roy had conducted her study. Firstly, I would like to congratulate Lipika because each and every aspect of her work is something that I personally relate to. I belong from a bordering village in Indo-Bangladesh border. And regarding the Quran Sharif placing in temples and women oppression and so many different stories of assault I have grown up listening to. I only have one question for her. I want to know, is there any micro measures being taken by the government in the bordering areas in order to protect the Hindu families and also the Hindu women, and which can help reduce all these acts of atrocities which are done on the Hindu families since last almost 50 to 60 years? I am interested to know this because I belong from a family which has migrated from East Bengal to India in 1950s.
Okay,
So
you. Please,
thanks.
Lipika, go ahead.
Thank you.
So thank you so very much. So you asked me about the law of Bangladesh. So recently when I visited there and I asked the people, especially the women of Bangladesh, do you have any like schemes, especially for the women in Bangladesh? Then they said they don't have. The way we have in our country, the way we have so many schemes and things are there for the minorities in our country, there is no implementation in Bangladesh. Forget about the women, they don't have anything for the minorities.
Just want to know this against the atrocity and rape case.
Yeah, they don't have. And since 1971, when the war has happened, and during that time lakhs of women, they lost their lives, raped, atrocities, everything has happened. That thing also they don't feel like talking about, and it's kept in their museum, it's kept there, but then they don't want to discuss on it. So no, in that case, no. And micro study to macro study, sir, you have said that will I be able to do it? So now my focus is on Bangladesh, so I'll try to work on that thing. And maybe in future I might do it in Pakistan also. I might do a study in a macro level also, but right now I'll be more happy to work in Bangladesh and the condition of women in Barak Valley, because there are so many new factors that I'm in a learning stage and I'll get to learn so many things if I do the micro level study. And you said about the Rohingyas, sir, in the Rohingya refugee camps, there are Hindu Rohingyas also, and they are again facing problem staying in Chittagong district of that region. The Hindus in the Rohingya Hindus, they again feel problem in their own in Bangladesh also, because there are so many interviews you can go through that it is not only about the Rohingya Muslims, it is about the Rohingya Hindus also, those who are suffering there in Bangladesh, especially they are staying in Chittagong district. So this is all. Thank you.
I think any other question from here? No.
Sir, I want to say something very quickly. Please allow me just 1 minute.
Who is this?
This is Kavita Saraide, sir. I was
Yes,
from.
just 1 minute, okay? We are running out of time.
Yeah, yeah. It was a very nice presentation, Lipika ji, and it's not a comment on your presentation, but there was one of the commenters here who spoke about the number of rape cases that happened. I think it was Gora rape or something, and he used a word that there one particular case was glorified, quote unquote. And I take strong objection to the use of how the words are being used. And while this communication is happening, he kept on saying gentlemen, gentlemen, while I mean, what is the linguistic culture we are following here?
No, no,
So
that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
Kavita.
Thank you so much, everyone.
No, no. Before you
Oh,
thank,
acha.
I have something for you. So,
Sorry, sir.
see, as I said, you are deeply involved with the topic. You are passionate about it, and I can very well understand and appreciate that. And this is a relatively neglected area, so I'm glad you have picked it up. And the basic points that you are making are broadly accepted by all of us. What we miss in your presentation, and I would like you to think on those lines, uh, is a macro level understanding of why these things happen ultimately. You see, you are looking at the atrocities happening, people being forced to migrate, women suffering, women being raped, and so on and so forth, all of which is factually correct. But there are certain underlying assumptions in your in your paper which you need to question and try to develop on those things further. For example, I have noted down, you started by saying that Bangladesh was created on the basis of language, but soon after it moved to Islamic fundamentalism. Now, that it is true that Bangladesh was created on the basis of language, but you should be aware that at that time itself, Bangladesh was being created. At the time of the Mukti Bahini struggle, there were large forces within Bangladesh which were not on the side of Bangladesh liberation. They were already on the side of Islam and Pakistan. So the point is that the same forces, for the time being, they were defeated, and so they were lying low. But after they succeeded in the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and later on, then they asserted themselves, especially during the 1980s, during the regime of Irshad and all. And then, of course, uh, uh, the opposition regime there. So the point is that it was an ongoing contest. For the time being, language was the dominant factor which succeeded in creating a separate nation of Bangladesh. But that other identity, the Muslim identity, had never been abandoned. It was very much there, and it had been a point of conflict, and it just came back. You are assuming that it had somehow not been there. Uh, the other thing is that and you see, in a very interesting way. Now, how did it happen in the case of Pakistan? In the Pakistan case, you see, Pakistan was created in the name of Islam, but then it had a conflict in the name of language. Bangladesh is being created in the name of language, but then it moves towards Islam, which means that all these identities were in a flux, and people were obviously fighting for various reasons with with the different kinds of people. So this has to be understood. Second is that, in your analysis, what I find missing is an understanding of Assamese nationalism. See, why is it that Assamese looked, it's not simply a question of religion. As you know, that Assamese nationalism is in some way, one can say, critical to, critical of and hostile to Bengali population in general, both Hindus and Muslims. So, in your analysis, you seem to be sort of indicating that it is simply a matter of religion. But is it so? The point is that since the 19th century, Assam, especially the Barak Valley, had been a very thinly populated region compared to Bengal. Migration started happening there from around the middle of the 19th century in a big way because of the British policies. The Assamese had not developed their own cultural consciousness or subnational consciousness that strongly. But Bengalis developed it earlier, Assamese developed it later. So you have to take their viewpoint also into account as to why is it that they resent, the presence of Bengalis there, both Hindus and Muslims. You know, the ASU agitation, and even now, predominantly the Assamese nationalism is against all Bengali migration, whether it is that of Hindus or Muslims. So the point is, you rightly said that there are many identities there, and many people are insecure about their identities in the Northeast. And partly it is the debris of colonialism. It created the conditions because of which all these people, they became, how should I put it, ultra sensitive towards their micro identities. So you need to put that distance between yourself and the topic in order to take all these other things also into consideration. Fourthly, you see, I would say that I don't know whether you are trained as a sociologist or a historian, but let me say one thing. When you use this survey method, I hope you have documented everything properly, and there is a methodology involved, and there is a proper sample, and so these are the things I'm sure that you have incorporated. These are some of my comments and questions. If you want to respond, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. So the last question that you have raised about the survey, I have done everything according to the methodology that have been used. For that reason, I'm going to speak about especially on the methodology part in my last talk. We have two talks in 2 years. So the first year talk, I have focused on the brief explanation on why it has happened, the historical background and the forced migration, and how this has all happened. And also I tried to focus few things by my qualitative analysis in the factors also. But in my second talk that I will do, in that talk I'll specifically mention the methodologies that I have been used and how I have collected the data, how I have done the work in the field. So everything will come up quantitatively and qualitatively in my next talk. So I have collected 200 samples from Bangladesh. So right now I'm working on it, and it's in a data. Those data are in a analysis situation. So I'll come up with that. And you said about the Assamese nationalism. There are so many books that I have read, and there are so many writers are there who wrote for the Assamese nationalism. Here also there are few books that I have mentioned here, but due to shortage of time, I couldn't mention their names. But they have, like Yasmin Kalita and so many people, those who Noni Kumal Mohanto, they have so many things they have wrote for the Assamese nationalism. But then in terms of Bengalis of Assam, we see that mostly the Bengal partition and the atrocities and the rapes and every book, mostly these books are from West Bengal. The writers are from West Bengal. So I found that this is a new area of research. That for that reason, my focus is especially on the Bengali Hindus. And in my work, you will see that what are the books that I have read regarding Assamese nationalism. It will come up. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. It was a delightful.
And when we say about the Assamese nationalism, we feel that the Assamese people, being born and brought up in Guwahati, Assam, we consider ourselves as Assamese only because we have born and brought up there. Every person who born there, they consider themselves like that only. And Assamese nationalism are challenged by the Assamese regionalism sentiment. So that is also a question that we need to consider, that whether it is the nationalism sentiment or the regionalism sentiment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead.